How are we all doing? Welcome to the Top Corner Podcast, episode number 26. As always, we are all here, not in the studio. I like to say that every week because maybe one day I'll finally be able to go back in the studio, but we'll wait a couple more years for that. So joining me as always, we have Rowan with a nice picture of Frankfurt legend Timothy Chandler.
Mm-hmm.
We have Kieran D.
He looks sexy.
Hello.
Who's got a picture of McTominay against City. And we've got Kieran L with Wake Up. Just in case you've got bored of the podcast, there's a reminder there to wake up if you're bored.
It's not
hard. How are we all doing? Have we enjoyed the Bundesliga action going on over the last couple of weeks?
Well, yeah, we streamed yesterday, didn't we? We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, honestly, I know I wasn't there yesterday, but thank you to everybody that did turn up yesterday for those Bundesliga watch-alongs. It was really nice. I mean, I didn't get to watch any of the games personally. I watched a little bit of the Klassiker, but I did get to see there's some crazy scorelines going on, which we'll talk about very, very briefly later on. I think, Kieran, now you've got to be the happy of everyone this week because you've just seen plenty of good games, haven't you? You've got the good pick from the ones we thought we were going to be rubbish.
I said that to the boys yesterday. When the wheel comes out, the wheel on the front of it looks like it's going to screw me over. It gives me a crap one. But little bit did he know that the games they've given me have been the most high scoring or most entertaining, like 1-1 with Paderborn on the weekend.
Who knows? I mean, we've got some fantastic games coming up this weekend. The way that this show is going to work this week, it is a Bundesliga relegation special. So last week we looked at the Bundesliga title race. We looked at a couple of the sides, including the likes of Dortmund and Leverkusen. Although Leverkusen, of course, safe to say both teams could be out of the race. Today we're going to be focusing a little bit more on those teams down at the bottom of the table. That does include the likes of Dusseldorf, Werder Bremen, Paderborn, a couple more teams down there as well. We'll be talking about throughout the show. As we always do. So they're the standout games that we will be talking about today. Now, usually to start the show, I like to have a section where I pick out a random piece of news that's gone on in the footballing world and try and get a random question out of it. But I'm not going to lie, it's fucking boring. There's nothing this week that we've had. You know, in terms of random news, last week we had the whole Gareth Barry situation. We've got nothing on the same caliber. Which is a bit of a shame. So I can't really give like much of a random question out this week. Go on, Rowan. I'll let you take it.
You can have one German player, one English player, and one French player in a three-man side. You don't need a goalkeeper. The goalkeeper's a random. Like pro clubs, it's Jorgensen in net. But you can have three top-tier players, one from each country. Who do you take?
So what are the countries?
Germany, England, France. I'd already say mine.
I feel like we should go one each though, like one German each. So then, if someone takes it, you're screwed.
No, you'll have the same one.
All right, you're allowed the same one. Oh, that's fine. Then.
Yeah, I'll go first. I'll go for the French defender. I'll go for Laporte. Great man at the back. You need a defender in there. I'd take him. Midfielder. Now, there was two here. There was Thomas Muller. Assists for days. There was also James Milner. Is your engine. You can go back and forth. You need your power. We talked about him a lot yesterday. I'm going to go for Muller because then that allows me up front to have Jamie Vardy. I've gone for not an underrated team, but I didn't want to go for just like your big names. Well, I've gone for some of your big names, but in terms of I didn't want to just go for your Griezmann up front. I didn't want to go for a Kante. I didn't want to go for like your Germans. I didn't want to go for Boateng or Hummels. I thought that those are my three.
I've got my three. Mbappe up top because. It's Mbappe, arguably the third best player in the world, soon to be the best player when the other two retire, or even if they stay around for a bit longer. Midfielder, I'm going to go with Kai Havertz because, get that future solidified. And in terms of actually, it left me with England in defence, which is not brilliant. But if there's one, it's former Hull City legend Slaven. So that's my team. That'll be my team.
Have you got yours, Kieran D?
I mean... I'd go with Mbappe because it's just Mbappe and he's incredible. Controversial, I'd go with Kimmich in the midfield. Obviously scored that beauty of a goal yesterday that had nothing to do with Ronan Burki. And then obviously that leaves me with centre back, and I'd also go with Big Slabhead.
Get in, go Slab.
See, mine was tough because obviously I'm guessing you can't have players out of the league, so you can't have a Frenchman in. Can you have a Frenchman like Italy or France?
I would say that, yeah.
Because I would have gone
French national team.
I would have gone.
Yeah,
I'd have gone centre back Varane.
Big Rafa.
Of course, big man, big player. Midfielder, I'd have gone for Kroos. And then striker, I would have gone Mbappe. I think there's no question about it in terms of, if you look at the caliber of strikers.
Got two French players there, mate.
Oh, English player. Oh yeah, good point. English.
Yeah,
I'll take Kane up top. I'll take Kane. I'll take Kane.
Right.
Bags in goals.
What a horrible pick that is, Harry. God, he's rubbish.
I mean, terrible play, really. God, Kane, he's awful. I mean, we're still ruining his missed chance over Croatia in the World Cup. Should have squared it, Kane.
To be fair, that question did make me realise that the English national team is nowhere near the level.
I mean, we say that, but we have got a good team. We
have, but I'm talking, if you look at France, they've got 3 11s that could match up to England's number 1 11.
Yeah, but France are also like World Cup winners.
Yeah.
Our teams come from note, really.
We're World Cup winners. Just about 40, about 60 years
France
ago.
are recent World Cup winners.
We're World Cup semi-finalists.
Yeah, exactly.
So are Croatia. They're the best centre-back in the world.
On France, do you know, like, France won the World Cup?
Welcome, Chris, by the way.
Hello. Do you know France won the World Cup? If you look back at the last winners, Germany got knocked out in the group stage the 4 years after they won it. The 4 years before that, Spain, after they won it, they got knocked out early in the year after. Do you think that's going to happen to France? Because I just don't see it.
No.
I don't see it. But it seems to be a thing when you win it 4 years later, you crap.
I think at the time, that German team and that Spanish team were not at the level that this French team is at.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think they're just better.
The thing is, this team, if you look at it realistically, like they got to the finals of the Euros as well, only a couple of years beforehand. So I think this French team could just keep running for a long, long time. I think we've still got a long way to go, because I think had it have been the Euros have gone on this year, I think we'd have all have definitely said France would have gone probably to the final. Or close to the final again. You'd have probably said at least quarters, semis. But I think they're the type of team where, if you look, like, you've got Mbappe, you've got like Aouar, Ousmane Dembele, you've got young players, and then you've got the older ones. But the great thing about France is their turnover of young players just goes on and on and on. You look like down the years at the young players that they've made that have gone on like to become legends, like Zidane, Blanc, players like that from the 90s. Where they had that like high period, and then the mid 2000s, you've got Henry, you've got Perez. They're like a bulldozing squad compared to us, I think.
It's strange because we talk about, like, for example, we could say now France, this is their golden generation, but I believe they've never not had a generation of good talent. Whereas Belgium, they had their golden generation. I honestly think they've missed the boat. I think Belgium is still a good side, but do you remember when Alderweireld, Vertonghen, Lukaku? I know Lukaku's still relatively young, and they also had Company for Eric Carrasco. They had a team that could have challenged, but I think they've just missed the boat, to be honest. Just one sec. Their year was. Do you remember when they got knocked out by Wales?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They should have gone on to win that tournament, in my opinion.
Hal Robson, Carney.
Sorry, Rowan.
Did you know, just a stat I learned from Tenable, Belgium are in the top 10 of the most World Cup appearances.
But how many have they won, though? Have they ever won one?
No.
Yeah, never won.
We were obviously up there.
They always get to like the quarters and the semis. You look at, like, realistically, you take that golden era of the Belgium, as you said. They had that great opportunity against. Obviously, they beat Japan only just by the skin of their teeth. Realistically, Japan. Yeah, Nacer Chadli just scoring that goal. Then who did they go on to play? Was it
Brazil, wasn't it?
Brazil, yeah.
Was it France or Brazil?
They beat Brazil 2-0, didn't they?
Yeah, and then they faced France and lost.
Yeah, big salmon too.
They've got a good side. They have got a great side. I do feel like they've missed a couple of opportunities, but as you said, I think you look at the star generation of players for that Belgium side, it's starting to dwindle away. And in terms of the younger players, we're not hearing about young players. So, like, when we had Adnan Januzaj come on the scene, young Belgian player, when we got Lukaku when he was a bit younger, they've got a good generation coming, but I think If you look at that Belgium side, they've missed the boat.
I just find it funny how Belgium have Lukaku, Benteke, Batshuayi, Origi, who are all, I said in Lukaku's form last year, not very good strikers.
They have got Mertens though.
Yeah, but I wouldn't class Mertens as a striker. Though. I'd class him more as a cam or a centre forward.
I do think though Lukaku, he's not. I wouldn't say he's underrated, but I don't think people realise how bloody good that man is. He's genuine. I know, like even at United, I think he got unfair slack. I think because I
he didn't know how to control the ball. Got shit first touch.
That?
So just because he's got a shit first touch, but he's a natural born goal scorer.
I mean, 28 goals in 66 games for Manchester United, and obviously currently Inter Milan, he's got 17 goals in 25. At Everton, he'd scored 53 in 110. When he was on loan there before he permanently signed, he got 15 goals in 31. At West Brom, back in the day, 17 goals in 35. If you look at his record, realistically, apart from Manchester United, but only just, he was scoring pretty much once every 2 games.
It's still once every 3 at United if you average it out. And let's be fair, without him, that miracle in Paris wouldn't have happened. And I mean, I don't think he fit what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wanted to do, which is fair enough. Some players don't fit certain managers' schemes because then they come in and they sell a player and you go, why have you sold him? But he just didn't fit what he wanted to do. And that's fair enough. But we're seeing Lukaku now at his best, I think, again.
Absolutely, and I mean the Serie A season should hopefully be coming back soon.
He works better in a two striker formation, I think. Whereas we don't really play the 2 striker formation.
Do you think he's like a little and large sort of? Wait, did he play with 2 at Everton? I don't think he did he?
No, he played up top on his own because I think they had
Morales, didn't they?
Morales.
I don't think he'd be a striker.
What?
It was Aruna Kone that used to come on.
He never really played with a 2 striker formation. I mean, the night in Paris he did because he played alongside Rashford. But other than that, we didn't really play 2 up front. Like when Mourinho were there. And you also got to take into account that at Man United he didn't take any penalties. I think he scored 1 penalty, whereas at Everton he was their designated penalty taker.
I thought, what about Baines? Or was that one when Baines was kind of on the slack of his career?
Yeah, Baines was on the slack.
Yeah, because I know he used to be like. Do you remember when he was like the king of set pieces for Everton, and he was like England's next big, like amazing fullback? I remember when. I think
the only bad thing for Baines was he was at his peak when like Ashley Cole was at his peak, and we had a lot of good players at their peak where these players like couldn't really pass them for England. Mind you, we were just abysmal, weren't we?
I still remember when Rose and Walker burst on the scene at the same time, and we thought we had a full-back tandem for the ages, and we were absolutely buzzing with Walker and Rose.
Luke Shaw as well.
And all you have to look at now is Danny Rose not even getting playing time at Newcastle. So that's something up for him, which is crazy. We've got a couple of comments. Bernaldo's in the stream. Welcome, Bernaldo, as always. One of the questions he put was we talked about the English section. Who replaces Kane on an international level? Later on, Mason Greenwood and Tammy Abraham. Do you think?
I think it depends how far you're looking ahead. Like Kane, how long's he got left? 3 years, 4 years?
He's not.
Yeah, I'd say about 5.
As the main striker, because eventually you're gonna have to bring someone new in who is quicker. It
depends on his injuries. If he keeps getting that recurring ankle injury, which he seems to be getting every year.
True.
I think realistically speaking, we could see Kane in this side until he's like 31, 32, in my opinion.
I don't think Mason Greenwood can play as number 9. As the number 9, shall I say? I think
if you had to give one name though, if we all had to give one name, Kane gets injured and we need someone else to step up in the next coming years. One name each. Who do you think? Because I've got a feeling like Kieran. Do you think it's Rashford, for example, or do you not like him at number 9?
He's not good at number 9. So he's not better than Abraham or Greenwood would be at 9.
Right. Who do you think then if you have to give one?
How long are we talking? Like, how long in the future are we talking? So next, are we talking about if he got injured for the Euros next year?
We'll go in the span of like 1 to 3 years, I guess. I don't know. Like,
It just depends how much Greenwood grows, but if not, I'd go with Abraham probably.
What do you think, Rowan?
Again, it's Abraham. Abraham's just the youngest, innit? That is an out-and-out striker. We don't really have many. We've got Mason Greenwood, but he hasn't really had main international experience. And if you want him to come in the next year or two, I'd say Tammy Abraham.
Josh?
Now, I can read Kieran's mind, and I'm going to agree with exactly what Kieran says before he says it. I'd like to see Mr. Calvert-Lewin get a go.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the thing with Calvert-Lewin is so far he's not a player that's had injuries. I think Abraham, he hasn't got an injury problem, but I think the worry about Abraham is he picks up these little niggly injuries like here and there. While Calvert-Lewin, I think now he's got a great manager that can kind of model him into the right striker that he wants. And I think we'd seen that a little bit over time. I would like to see Calvert-Lewin get a go. And I think you're going to say the same.
I was, of course, going to say he is England's number 9. It's but honestly, on like a realistic thing, he is the out-and-out striker. As we talked about Abraham, he's always played out-and-out striker. So's Calvert-Lewin. Whereas I get Kieran's point that Rashford and Greenwood, to their credit, they're so adaptable. You can play them out wide. You can play them maybe even just behind a striker, in more Greenwood's case than Rashford's.
Yeah, you think both of those two players are good when they cut inside. You know how good Rashford is when he cuts inside onto his right foot where he can hit it. Greenwood's a little bit the same with his finishing. But Calvert-Lewin's not really that adaptable player where he can play out on the wing, but not to the effect that Greenwood or Rashford could out on the wing. Not like we're going to play them out on the wing when we've got Sancho and Sterling anyway.
So I'd give it to Calvert-Lewin because, again, actually as well, he offers you a bit more, I think, than Tammy Abraham. Tammy Abraham is very similar to Harry Kane, I'd say. They're quite tall. I think he's a better target man than Kane, and Kane's the better finisher. But this is why I always believed Calvert-Lewin should be taken to the Euros, is he just offers something different to a Kane or Abraham.
I think it depends how we play, to be fair, because you think Calvert-Lewin's going to be quite quick on the counter. Yeah. So if we're dominating the game, I think I'd rather have Kane up top.
Kane's difficult because, as Josh said, I think it might have been Josh, or it might have been you actually, about his injuries. We saw him before the Champions League, but then he went straight back in. And I'm sorry, there's moments for me when you rush him straight back that Kane does not look the player that he looks 9/10 of the season. So I know we're not playing the Euros this year, but imagine if we would have rushed him back and put him straight in the 11. I don't think we'd have seen the Harry. I know he got World Cup top goal scorer, but let's be half were against Panama
and penalties.
So I don't know. I do rate Harry Kane. It's a tough one.
I think we're all forgetting about that incredible goal that came off the back of his heel as well. That just went into the bottom corner. Yeah, of course.
Oh, yeah.
To be fair, the goals against Tunisia, that showed his prowess. Do you know where he's at the back post? That's a striker knowing where the ball's going to fall or gambling on where the ball will fall. And that's the best part of Kane's game because he's got that striker instinct. Whereas, as we've said, he doesn't go on missing.
Yeah, he's always in the right place.
He's not always at that level.
It'd be interesting because obviously we've now got an extra year to wait ahead of the Euros. So we, for all we know, even though we could have gone into this Euros, had it gone on now, we'd have probably gone with Calvert-Lewin. Let's say if Kane picks up another injury next year, who knows? There might be an English striker right now that we've not even talked about that has a ridiculous run of form and gets called up. I mean, obviously Danny Ings, I think it's another name that could have been put out there. Maybe not as much to a certain extent as a Calvert-Lewin in that, but of course this season has been quite good. Whether he can keep the same form going into next year is another question. But we all forgot about Jermaine Defoe as well. Yeah.
John, a man on the periphery, Tom Eaves. If he picks up some form, pull on him.
He'll be joining West Ham with Jared Bowen. I'd like to see that at West Ham.
I want to see Ashley Young at left back. That's what I want to see. Ashley Young and Luke Shaw as well. Ashley Young at right back, Luke Shaw at left back. Chris Smalling at centre back.
Yeah. Most obvious choice. Big brute of a centre back. Ronaldo won't want to do as he meets David Wheater. Make him quake in his boots.
On the real,
to be fair,
alongside David Wheater, if we play him, I agree with Kieran Dillon. Chris Smalling, I hope he keeps.
Oh yeah.
Is there
I hope he stays at Roma though.
Is there any reason why he shouldn't be starting next to Maguire? I mean, apparently he's not going anywhere.
Walker. Because Walker moved to the centre back position.
Who do we play at right back?
Trent.
Who do we actually play at right back?
Trent.
Trent. Oh
Oh no, actually, to be fair, we played Trippier quite a bit actually.
Walker.
And Trippier's not bad.
Well, not him.
No, he's all right at Atletico. And as I said, I think we talked about this. Do you remember when I think we did this on a podcast once, and it was nothing, a bit like this one. It's nothing to do with the England Euros team, but we sat there and spoke about it for a good 20 minutes. And this is why selecting the England team going forward is difficult, because as you've said, look at right back. He likes playing Trippier. You've got Wan-Bissaka, who's arguably could make any fullback replace any fullback in the world, just not Trent Alexander-Arnold. And then you've got Trent, obviously. So
I mean, if you look at the last World Cup, Trippier wasn't bad, and also he produced one of my favourite moments of that tournament when he scored that free kick. There was pain all over.
Everyone's life paid.
It was.
Everyone's life.
It was my second best moment, was what I mentioned to Kieran Dillon earlier, the roly-poly throwing from Iran. That's my favourite moment.
We'll never forget that. I think that's one of the main memories where you remember where Trippier scored that goal. And then you don't remember the rest of it because we'll not talk about the rest of that match. But I think, of course, unfortunately, we don't have the Euros going on, but we do have some football going on still, of course. It is the Bundesliga. As always, as I said, this episode is about the relegation battle that is going on. Just before we go into that, we'll have a quick look at the comments. Chris has put, UEFA Euro 2021 will still be called UEFA Euro 2020 despite it's in 2021. He thinks the stupidest thing I've seen. It doesn't take much to change one number. And then Chris put, go on, Ron, I'll let you go.
Well, I understand why it's going to be called 2020 because it is the 2020 Euros. Regardless of the year, it's like, yeah, it should be called the 2020 Euro because otherwise you're going to, sorry, I don't know.
Oh,
but you're gonna get to like the World Cup, which will be 2022. So like, then it wouldn't make sense. The gaps, like, people will get confused. It's easy just to call it the 2021.
Licensing as well is probably quite a big issue. And then he's also put Trippier is already a legend, scoring a free kick in a 2-1 defeat to Croatia. Do me a favour, behave yourself. So. Not the biggest fan of Trippier being called a legend, but each to their own opinion. Each to their own. So we're going to go into our Bundesliga section of the podcast now, of course. We did do a couple of matches that we talked about last week. It was about the title race. Of course, we had that humongous Der Klassiker match that went on. Now, what I've done for this week's last result section is because both of the games we talked about were interlinked with the clubs, I put them both together so we can very briefly talk about them. So, of course, on Saturday, which we did the watch-along, once again, thank you ever so much for everybody that joined. You'll have noticed we had a big match between Wolfsburg and Dortmund, which Kieran D covered that match. And of course, we had the Klassiker yesterday, which you guys covered on that watch along as well, which Bayern Munich picked up that very, very vital 3 points. But in terms of the two games that Dortmund played, after a pivotal 3 points against Wolfsburg in a game which started slowly, eventually did see goals come from Guerrero and Hakimi, who've both been on fine form since, of course, Dortmund have come back from the coronavirus situation. They could have actually been in a very good position to mount on the title race. However, of course, last night's Der Klassiker saw that incredible 20-yard chip from Joshua Kimmich, which means now Bayern go 7 points ahead of Dortmund. Of course, there was that very important first-minute opportunity which Haaland had to open the scoring straight away, which he didn't score, unfortunately. The question I wanted to ask you guys, obviously now Bayern, they're 7 points ahead in this title race. 6 games left. Is it now over? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We had a look at
a resounding answer.
No,
we had a look at the games they've got to play.
I'm a man for bold picks, but yes, more or less. I'm hoping that, in fairness, Bayern have got a couple of tough games. It can be done.
They've got 2 tough games.
We spoke about this yesterday, Kieran.
2 games we need to lose. Sorry.
We had a look at the games.
We were talking through, like for example, they've got 6 games left of the season. If the table was in the point where we'd said Bayern lose 1 game and then the title race is back on, I'd go, yeah, Bayern can lose 1 game in 6. But you have to figure out Bayern have to lose half of their games, and that's not going to happen. Not even. Yeah, it's not going to happen. We said they face Leverkusen, Wolfsburg. Was it Mönchengladbach? Yeah, Mönchengladbach. But
they've got Dusseldorf this weekend.
Yeah, exactly. No offense, Dusseldorf, but you couldn't even keep a 2-0 lead against.
I think it's quite straightforward for Bayern Munich.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I
we're going
think
to be
they got their
talking about
hardest
that
game of
game.
the season out of the way last night.
Well, I put down stats-wise because we're going to be
Good.
talking about that game against Dusseldorf later on, of course, because that is part of the relegation battle special that we've got going on today. Bayern Munich, of course, we have had that coronavirus break, which has broke up the season. They haven't lost a game in all competitions since December. The last game that they lost was against Gladbach. All the way back in December. Since then, every competition that they've been in, they've won. They've not lost a single game, which is crazy to see. And once again, last night, I didn't get to watch the game between Dortmund. But how was it on paper? Was it a good match, or was it very tight affair?
I'd say Dortmund had the best of it, and they'll be infuriated that they couldn't do more with the amount of opportunities they had. But they didn't seem to have the cutting edge. To be fair, Bayern they didn't blow me away at all. I don't know if they blew the other two away, but I don't think they did from what I heard us say on the watch along. But it was just one mistake.
I think Dortmund should have won. They had the most. I think they had a lot more chances, but again, they just lacked that final oomph of just actually getting the ball in the back of the net. I think they'll be very disheartened when they look back on the game because it should have been a definite penalty from a Boateng handball. For sure. When it happened, we were very surprised that it wasn't given. But again, if they made the chances, that penalty shout shouldn't have mattered. And Bayern put away the chance. Obviously, Berkey did make the mistake, but at the end of the day, he should be scoring.
I didn't watch the whole game, but I did see the Boateng handball. A question I'm going to ask you. Now, obviously, the reason why it didn't go to VAR for the handball was because apparently Dortmund took the corner too quick for them to be able to go to VAR. That rule shouldn't count, in my opinion.
No,
personally speaking, it's ridiculous rule to have. The fact that they took the corner quickly, no matter what, you look at teams in the past that taken corners quickly. Liverpool did it in the Champions League final, worked to great effect. If you can get exit Swansea, we're not going to bring that one up. Not going to bring that one up again. Kyle Norton, no, but you can catch teams on the break. It's a great tactic. The handball, I'm guessing you'll all agree, was that a penalty for Dortmund?
Yes.
Yeah. And also, I swear to God, if a VAR check is happening, the referee puts his hand up and tells people to stop anyway. So we could have easily just said when he took the corner, blew the whistle and go back, we're checking something. That is, you can't, rubbish that, sorry, that's rubbish.
Well, the only reason I thought they didn't give it was because, the player who would have seen it easily would have been Haaland, and Haaland didn't call for it. No Dortmund players called for it, and I'm guessing that's why they immediately didn't check in, and the corner was taken. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think that could be the reason why, but I think it was last week on Saturday when I did the Gladbach Leverkusen game. We had the incident where Gladbach thought they'd won a penalty, but the ref went to Leverkusen and gave them the penalty. And there was a big break in time between then. And you look at the opportunity of the potential penalty shout for Dortmund here. It wasn't that much of a time difference in between. So I don't understand why it could be one rule for one rule for another. And somebody made a very, very great piece. And this is coming a little bit out of the game. Of course, this is just for the natural spectator that isn't a Bundesliga fan. Somebody made a very good point that it's very hard for the Bundesliga to keep neutral people watching because of Bayern Munich. And I don't know whether you'd agree with that or not, because people are so used to Bayern winning the league year on year. And it's the same thing in Italy. It's the same thing in France to a certain aspect, that you always see Juventus winning it. You always see PSG winning it. It's now become very hard for people to enjoy this league because they're so used to the same club winning it. And I think
I get it.
You probably see a big decline in viewers this week just because realistically a lot of people, like yourselves, for example, will have looked at the table and gone, the race is over.
To be fair, that is the reason I'm getting more and more turned off by the Premier League each year, because the gap between the City, because they've spent too much money that no one can keep up. Liverpool are now entering, but it's literally them two. I don't remember the last time another team was in it, apart from when Chelsea won it a couple years ago. I can't remember how many years ago now, but since then they've not been up there. So it is difficult because, let's be fair, we all want to. This is why I think we love the World Cup and the Euros, is because you can have an idea of who's going to win it, but there's lots of evenly matched teams, and money has got nothing to do with it. It's just, so I agree, because we said this weekend while we was watching the stream, that's it, it's over. So we have to look at something else to enjoy because that result's already determined pretty much. I don't know about the other two though.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to have sort of a hope that something happens with the league, because at the end of the day, something could happen. Bayern could all of a sudden in training get major injuries. It's relying on a lot of stuff, and Haaland's injury isn't too serious.
He's actually out, by the way, for the Paderborn game.
Is it?
That came out about a minute or two ago.
Well, because Bernardo said the handball being unlooked and Haaland getting injured was awful for them. And Chris Walsh said VAR have had a nice break, but still got to get it right. I think, just going back to the VAR thing quickly, I do think it's referees' preference. In a lot of other sports, the referees will always go to VAR, or if they are so sure of themselves, they may just go, we don't need to check it, I'm that confident. And sometimes the referees I think it is all down to referees' preferences. If they genuinely do feel that wasn't a handball, they wouldn't have asked VAR at the end of the day, and VAR wouldn't have come to them. It is referees' preferences. But yeah, I hope something happens. But now I suppose we've got to look out for the relegation battle and the Champions League spots. At least there is still a battle going on in them positions.
Well, no, and that's the next thing we'll go on to now, actually. Of course, the other games that were going on, we picked out the other team, which was Bayer Leverkusen. Weird weekend for them because I watched the game on Saturday between Gladbach and Leverkusen. They won that 3-1, convincing result. And then I think, Kieran, did you watch this one between Wolfsburg and Leverkusen last night?
Yeah.
And it was the complete opposite. And now this Champions League race for the positions is looking a lot more open. I'll talk about the Gladbach game in a little moment's time, but I just kind of wanted to get an idea because I didn't watch the match. What did you think of Leverkusen? If you compare them to the game against Gladbach where they were solid, what were they like against Wolfsburg?
They didn't really get out of the starting blocks, to be fair. Wolfsburg were on top of them from minute one, and I kept saying that Wolfsburg were on top. They were dominating, they were quick to the ball, and they were just deadly from their set pieces. I tell you, Burnley would have been proud because 3 goals from 3 set pieces, really. Max Arnold was absolutely incredible a day before his birthday. And Pongrasic, just 2 class headers, really. That's all I can say. And then power header merchant Renato Stefan with another goal. I mean, there's nothing that Leverkusen can take out of that game. Maybe only that Tapsoba had a really good game to say he conceded 4 goals in the defence.
I was going to say as well, like when I watched the game, there was a bit of a point where they looked a little bit shaky against Gladbach. Gladbach got the goal back from Thuram, and they were very, very dodgy for quite a bit of a period of time. In terms of you other boys, we were talking about Leverkusen last week, and we were giving them the high praise and saying they were the best team in the Bundesliga since it started back again. Is this massive stumbling block for Leverkusen, or do you think they can get back to their best?
You can't suddenly discount what they've managed to do, though, in 2020, to be fair. And as I was saying to them last night, that's the first game Tapsoba's lost since he became part of this Leverkusen side. So I don't want to discount what they've done because they've had a really good 2020. And I think it'd be a bit unfair after one result. But they need to bounce back on the weekend. And to be honest, I need to check who they've got so I know if they can bounce back or not. What do you think, Rowan?
We were on about, sorry, I blanked out for a sec.
Brilliant. It's okay, Ro.
No. Talk about him. Is it Leverkusen? Well, when you're coming off a 4-1 loss against a team who were practically going in for that qualification Europa League spot, where you're struggling, you need to get that other Europa. It's because the PowerPoint changed. That's what confused me.
Yeah, but, sorry, my phone.
When you're going for the Europa League spot, it's tough when you lose into a team who are nowhere near you in that fight, but they're needing to win to confirm their at least qualification spot, and you really can't, especially with Dortmund dropping points, you can't be losing. But again, they picked up a great win over Gladbach. It's a strange situation. Normally you see a team, if they look like they're not fully in for this, they'll lose a lot of games, but you're beating a rival in Gladbach, then losing to a rival in Wolfsburg.
To be fair,
it's a crazy one. It's
we're
weird.
talking about. Oh, sorry, Kyle.
No, sorry. I was just going to say it's just weird because, the first game, I know it was against Werder Bremen, they were looking shaky, but they just look so good defensively. They looked great. Attacking wise, to get 7 goals in 2 games is quality. And then to come up against Wolfsburg and just capitulate like that, it's strange.
It is. And as much as Leverkusen capitulated, I mean, we've got to give credit to Wolfsburg, because to go away to the Bayer Arena, yes, it's no fans, but to put up a performance like that, after they lost on the weekend, didn't they, to Dortmund, was it? They lost to?
They did indeed. Yep, 2-0.
Yeah, but they're coming off the back of a defeat. I don't think anyone really saw this result coming. I think Kieran was watching the game, but I don't think he would have expected to see a mauling quite like that.
Well, in terms of predicting results, you might have noticed there's something missing. Now, of course, we make our predictions each week on the podcast in terms of what we think these scores are going to be in the games. And of course, I do have the league table, which I'm going to show up in a moment's time. I'm just quickly going to load up the predictions from the last games. There we go. So last week, of course, we predicted these 4 matches. As we always say, we're doing a little Bundesliga league right now. So for every prediction you get correct, you'll get 3 points. If 2 or more pick the same result and you both get it correct, you'll get 1 point. So in the game between Wolfsburg and Dortmund, of course, it ended 2-0. Kira D, you predicted 3-1 Dortmund, so not too far off. But the closest was Kevin L. You predicted 3-0 Dortmund. I predicted 3-2 Wolfsburg. Nowhere near. I did get the goals right for Dortmund. And as for you, Rowan, you were as close as Kieran as well. You predicted 2-1 to Dortmund. So unfortunately, no points in that section there. Dortmund Bayern. Kieran D, you went 3-1 to Bayern. Kieran L, you went 3-1 to Dortmund, so you were correct with the Bayern goals.
Yeah.
I went 4-4, so I'm quite far off. And I think Rowan, you went. I'm not going to go too far behind you as well. So you went 4-3 Dortmund. So
close.
No points on the board again. We go to the Gladbach Leverkusen game, of course, which went on Saturday. Kira D, you went 3-2 Gladbach, so close. We're not close enough. Kieran L, you went 2-2.
Yeah.
Close. I went 1-0 to Gladbach, so I was miles off. Rowan, you went 2-1 Leverkusen.
Oh.
So you were
every single week,
painstakingly close.
even when we first started the podcast, I've been one off. Or I've been stupidly off. I can never just get it right. I don't think I've got predictions right the entire podcasts.
You know what? I might have to go through all the podcasts and see.
Ginger, I don't think I have.
Leverkusen Wolfsburg, the last one predicted this week. Kira D, you went 4-2 to Leverkusen. So if you flipped it round, you would have been close. Kieran L, you went 2-0 to Leverkusen.
Yeah.
I went 3-1 to Leverkusen. Rowan,
I know it's wrong.
You went 3-1 Wolfsburg.
Yeah, of course.
One off again. Which
Surprise.
means that this week, after all that, nobody gains any points on the board. The table stays exactly as it is. No points.
What was that, Rowan? I can't hear you all the way down there.
So as you can see the table, he's still pretty close. Kieran, you're still in the lead with 6 points. Me and Kieran L are on 3. Rowan, you will get one right eventually. We're so close this week.
Kieran, don't ruin it because I'm behind. So I can already know what's about to come, I think. Yeah, there you go. What a surprise, because I knew what was coming.
There you go. It's a
all right.
close one.
It's from the Liverpool legend. It's all right.
Are you not watching the football?
Great. Just scored for Berlin. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, there's a game.
Berlin against Leipzig.
There is a game going on right now. Actually, of course, we've got some fixtures going on tonight. So Hertha Berlin. Is it Hertha Berlin 1?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
they're on fire right now.
Well.
Crazy there. So that is the prediction score table, of course. We've got six more weeks to go of this. It's still well in the balance, even though me and Rowan are towards the bottom end of the table. Plenty more games to predict.
Don't say me and Rowan. You're on the same points as Kieran L.
You're on the free. You only need one prediction right, and you're back in it.
We take the losses away as well. So it looks like a really shit.
Yeah, it does. It does.
I'll take it away. It's just I wanted to have win, draw, loss on there.
Keep it there.
Also, you've kept matches played 2. I swear we've predicted more than
No,
two.
podcasts.
No, like
Match
podcast-wise.
What does M stand for then?
Match was predicted.
You're not supposed to read into the table. I just made it for fun. God,
Sorry.
no.
Many
It's just like pretty much, yeah. Just if you class matches played as just the whole podcast in general.
To be fair, Rowan would have a really good goal difference if it was how close you got to the result. We
I
Do you
did
know
it.
what? It probably have the highest goal difference.
It's true.
Yeah.
But that is the score prediction table this week. Kieran in the lead. No points on the board. But before we go on to the next session of the podcast, which will be the games of the week, you can join us on The Athletic today if you're looking for some football content, whether you're looking for WWE content or combat sports. You can join The Athletic. They've got high quality sports writers on there, including the likes of Oliver Kay and Raphael Honigstein, who, of course, right now is covering the Bundesliga, so he writes plenty of content on there. You can join us on there, get yourself 50% off your annual subscription, as well as a 7-day free trial. The subscription is bloody cheap, I'll tell you that for sure. The link will be in the description. It's theathletic.co.uk/the sports corner. I highly recommend you come and join us on there. Why not? Loads of content on there. Highly recommended. So once again, theathletic.co.uk/sports corner. The link is in the description below. So we're now going to move on to the last section of this podcast, which, of course, is Games of the Week, which has got a main focus this week on the Bundesliga teams that are fighting for survival. So I have picked out 4 games this week. It's covering those sides that are in the bottom 3. So that is Werder Bremen, Paderborn, and Dusseldorf. So the first team I picked out, they've got 2 important games this week, in my opinion. We start off with the game between Schalke against Werder Bremen, of course. That is Saturday, 2:30. And then their other game is against another team that is fighting for survival right now, Eintracht Frankfurt. That is Wednesday, 7:30. So in terms of the form table, in the last 5 match days that have been played, Schalke would sit bottom of the league. They've only picked up 1 point in their last 5 games. As for Werder Bremen, their form has begun to improve. They've had 1 win and 2 draws in their last 5. But of course, still work needs to be done if they are wanting to survive. Schalke dropping down the table. They sit 8th currently as well, still being in within the chance of getting a Europa League spot. But the pressure is indeed beginning to increase on David Wagner's position as manager. For 17th place Werder Bremen, the possibility of survival is well and truly in sight. 2 points separate Werder Bremen and Dusseldorf right now in that relegation playoff spot. However, they only need 6 points to completely survive. Of course, Mainz still well under pressure to survive. Who'll win that game? And of course, the other game which I've talked about, which is that game against Frankfurt, is followed by another big chance for Werder Bremen to steal points. They'll be playing against Frankfurt, who slipped into the relegation battle. They've had no wins in their last 5. In fact, if you look at the form table right now, they sit second bottom alongside Schalke. Dusseldorf and Bremen, they're continuing to pick up points. Frankfurt, they are well and truly in danger of now being thrown into not just the playoff battle, but a complete relegation scrap in general. We could see the bottom 3 change completely depending on the other fixtures elsewhere. My question to you, can Bremen potentially do the unthinkable? We were saying about it a couple of weeks ago. It looks like it's changed very slightly. Could they do the unthinkable and survive?
Yes. Yeah, hopefully. Well, I watched the game yesterday against Gladbach, and I mentioned it practically all stream. It looks like the roles were reversed. It looks like Bremen were fighting for this Champions League spot because they had practically everything going for them. I don't think the result was justified. I genuinely do think Werder Bremen should have won. Maybe some poor substitute. I don't think you should have took off Rashika. I think you should have kept him on. Bartels had a great game though. But I don't. They can do it, but they need to score, and that's the problem. It was the same as the Dortmund game. They just didn't finish it. Bittencourt, when he came on, again, doing what he did in the last weekend's game, just getting shots and shots off, but never the finishing thing. When David Selke came on the same again, having many attacking chances, but they just couldn't get it in the back of the net. And obviously, that is the game of football. You need to score, and that's what they can't do.
I think the big problem right now is some of these sides they're facing up against have also got the same issue. I mean, Schalke, of course, they've been battered quite recently. Of course, lost 3-0 to Augsburg at the weekend and 4-0 the weekend before. They've been looking lackluster. And as for Frankfurt, they've been scoring goals, of course. We'll talk about them in a little moment's time because Kieran watched their game, which they played against Freiburg yesterday, which ended with a 3-3. But for Schalke right now, of course, they're still within a chance of getting themselves a Europa League spot. I mean, they're sitting 8th right now, 37 points. They only need to get 5 points, and they'd be back in the race again. So it's 37 points, not 38. It's a tricky one here because could this be the game that Schalke finally gets a good point or 3 points on the board and get back to the winning ways? Or do we think Werder Bremen's good run right now could put Schalke in more worries?
I think it's a tough situation to be in for Schalke because Werder Bremen, arguably, have coming off 2 good results, 0-0 with Gladbach and then a 1-0 win away at, was it Augsburg? No, Freiburg it was at the weekend.
Yeah.
So 2 clean sheets for Werder Bremen, only 1 goal scored, which is kind of stinky. But yeah, they'll be on good form. They'll have high confidence. And of course, Dusseldorf above them can always drop points this weekend because they're playing Bayern Munich. And it's going to be tough to see them pick up any points against Bayern Munich. So if Werder Bremen were to pick up any points at all, it's a plus because they're going to gain on Dusseldorf no matter what.
I've got the table up right now, by the way. So it's Paderborn on 18 points on 18th. Werder Bremen are currently sat on 22 points in 17th. Dusseldorf are on 24 points in 16th. And Mainz, of course, losing the weekend 5-0 to Leipzig, which is a shocking result. They're now on 27 points in 15th.
I haven't seen anything from Schalke for months. Not because they weren't on telly and they weren't playing football. Just even before this break, they were awful. And they just don't seem to be the team that they were when the season began. So I honestly, I think the thing is with Schalke, they've rolled through a lot of managers in recent seasons. And I think it's just going to continue. And I think David Wagner will be fighting for his job. But I just don't see anything to make me think that whereas Werder Bremen, they've shown enough to show that they are in with the fight to stay up.
I like that. And of course, I think there was a lot of fans, especially after that game they played against Augsburg the weekend, that were wanting David Wagner to resign. But of course, he's still in the position right now and he's still within a fighting chance of getting his side to a Europa League spot. So I'm going to ask you the first question. For this game specifically, what do you think the score is going to be of this one? I'll start off with Kieran D, as we usually do.
2-0 to Werder Bremen.
Oh, I hate you so much.
2-0 Werder Bremen.
We were allowed to copy.
I know, but that's just boring, isn't it? I'll go 1-0 Werder Bremen. They don't score many goals. 1-0.
1-0 Werder Bremen. I am going to go for I'm going to go 2-2. Why not? Let's have some goals. Rowan, what are you feeling for this one?
I'm going to go for a 0-0.
A 0-0?
Yeah, 0 draw. Chris Welch has gone for 2-2, by the way, but yeah, 0-0.
There we go. So...
Sorry, I was trying to hold in a sneeze when I was saying my predictions. Yeah, 0-0 draw. Unfortunately, Werder Bremen haven't liked the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, so apart from me, you've all gone for quite low scorelines. Of course, Kieran D going for the highest without goals, apart from mine, of course. I've gone for 2-2 draw. Did you say Chris had gone for a 2-2 draw as well?
Yeah.
Yep, so you've all gone for fairly tight scores, but no one has gone for a win for Schalke, most importantly. So we all think that they're going to flop once again this week, and maybe we might not see Wagner in for the job for much longer. Now, the other game, of course, I picked out was another game that Werder Bremen are playing against Frankfurt. I picked this game out specifically because I know you'll know a lot more after last night's game, Kieran L, of Frankfurt. We saw them against Bayern Munich. Which, of course, they lost 5-2, if I'm correct off the top of my head. 2 goals from Hinteregger in that match. In fact, he scored at both sides of the pitch. But, of course, also last night, they picked up a very, very valuable point against Freiburg in that 3-3 draw. They look like they can score goals, but it looks like they've got a bit of a defensive problem. I wanted to ask about last night's game and what you thought about Frankfurt, because, of course, they were 3-1 down at the 70th minute, but somehow pulled it back again.
Well, it was undeservedly so. They were by far the better team. And during the watch-along, I felt like an absolute mug. I felt like Steve McLaren, you know, where he says, England are back on top against Iceland. No, it's 2 on Iceland, doesn't matter. I genuinely felt like that because I was saying, Frankfurt are on top. And then before I knew it, they were 3-1 down. So they were vulnerable when shots were against them, because I think we were looking last night and I think there was only 4 shots on target from Freiburg with 3 goals. But they were much the better side, and the link-up play between Kamada, Silva and Dost last night was genuinely brilliant. And your mate Kamada, Josh, who you absolutely hate, scored a goal.
I knew you were going to say it because I did say to Kieran L before the stream, it's guaranteed that somebody will bring up Kamada.
Yeah, I will. I will bring up Kamada. He did score, but overall, I do think Frankfurt were much the better side. And even though they are being dragged into it, I think Kieran D mentioned it to me before the game started that they were only 4 points off the playoff spot. I think they've got enough about them to stay up, definitely, from what I saw against Freiburg, even though they only picked up a point in a game they should have won.
I think you can very well easily say as well, the first game that we watched of Frankfurt, they did look lacklustre. We talked, me and QD, mainly about the lack of link-up play between Kamada and Dost. And of course, as fitness has gone on, we've had some fantastic games this weekend, and maybe players are starting to gel a bit more and get back used to playing football again. And we'll start seeing some of these sides come out and play a bit more attacking, and the way that they did before the break, of course. It's a good result for Frankfurt. Any point at this stage of the season will do. This is a tricky one. Werder Bremen, they were going to be at home. They might see this potentially, if they have picked up points against Schalke, as a great little eye-opener to not just close the gap between Frankfurt and Mainz, but to even potentially get out of the relegation zone, depending on results elsewhere. Does anyone feel like maybe that Werder Bremen have got much more of a chance than Frankfurt to take points in this game, or are we all going down the route of Frankfurt?
I think if you look at the stats from yesterday's game, 32 shots for Frankfurt, 9 for Freiburg. Like, Frankfurt's attacking threat is way more dangerous than you look at Werder Bremen's. David Selke, when he came on, didn't look like he would do anything. The main standout was Rashika Bittencourt when he came on. Friedel as a left back was right back was one of the best players on the pitch. Yeah, he's your defender. I don't know. It's going to be a very tough game for Werder Bremen.
It is going to be a tricky one indeed. This is the Wednesday 7:30. The way it's going to work this week with the midweek kickoffs is there's a game on Monday, there's a game on Wednesday, and there's one game on Friday. So unlike this week, there's not going to be multiple games kicking off at the same time. As far as I'm aware, maybe I've got it wrong and it's next week. But in terms of the score predictions...
Wasn't this the game that they have a game in hand?
You are absolutely correct.
Isn't this Werder Bremen's game in hand?
It should be, yes.
Yeah.
So
this is a must-win for Werder Bremen, then.
Absolutely must-win. I'm going to come to you first, Kieran D.
3-1 Werder Bremen. We love a 3-1.
Really? I've noticed you do like a 3-1. You do like a 3-1 indeed.
We love a 3-1.
I was so worried when he said 3-1 that he was going to rob me scoreline again. But I'm going to go with, because last night they either played, like in past Frankfurt games, they've either played Dost on his own or Andre Silva on his own. And when they played together, they looked at really, really dangerous. I'm going to go 3-1 Frankfurt.
3-1 Frankfurt. I am going to go 2-1 Frankfurt because I do like the look of Andre Silva right now. Of course, they do want to sign him permanently from AC Milan. And a good reason, of course, as to why. So I'm going to go 2-1 Frankfurt. Rowan?
I'm going to go for a 0-0.
0-0 again?
I wanted to go for possible 1-0 Frankfurt, but I'm going to go for a 0-0 this time. I think both teams will cancel each other out. And Chris Welch has gone for a 2-0 Bremen win.
2-0 Bremen win. So there we go. Mixed opinions for this one. Of course, it's going to be tricky. Kieran D, you're the one that is repping Werder Bremen this weekend.
I am.
So 3-1 there. We're going to go on to our next game, of course. This is the team that has a significant issue right now in terms of the game they've got to play on Saturday, which is Bayern Munich versus Dusseldorf. Now, this fixture for Dusseldorf, realistically on paper, sounds like a loss. However, Dusseldorf, they've mounted a very, very serious battle for survival this season. They've had no losses in their last 5 games. However, that is only 1 win and 4 draws. Of course, this could be a great game to place a dent in Bayern's title home run. Of course, we've just seen them beat Dortmund. Maybe they go into this game with high hopes and Dusseldorf pick up some points. It's a tricky situation, but if Dusseldorf can win this fixture and Mainz lose to Hoffenheim earlier in the day, which is a very, very likely, there's likelihood of it happening, then Dusseldorf could actually be out of the relegation zone if they can win this game. However, of course, we can't undermine Bayern this season. They've been fantastic, even if the title race has been close. They've not lost a game at home or in all competitions in general anyway since December. And of course, after that big Clasico win, they will not want to give up any points now. They've got a fantastic opportunity to go and claim the title. Does anyone think Dusseldorf could give Bayern Munich a shock and take some points away from them?
No.
Yes.
Of course.
Go on, Rowan.
I think there's a chance with everything. Bayern didn't look particularly amazing at the weekend. I know you're comparing Dortmund to Dusseldorf, but there's always a chance, and maybe Dusseldorf could do something. I'm hoping they can.
I mean, of course, we have seen Dusseldorf play a couple of games. They previously played against Paderborn, which we saw they got a couple of shots which hit the bar. They've had a couple of other games on the side as well. As I said, in the league right now, in terms of how they are, 16th in the league, 24 points on the board, a goal difference of minus 23, which means, of course, if they can beat Bayern to a decent scoreline, they will go above Mainz's minus 24, of course, because of that loss to Leipzig, costing them quite heavily on their goal difference. The results that they've had, they got a 2-2 draw against Cologne in the Cologne-Rhein derby that went on. They were actually 2-0 up against Cologne, but they then conceded in the 88th minute to Anthony Modeste, and then the 91st minute to John Cordova. Sounds like a FIFA game, that. Of course, Dusseldorf 0, Paderborn 0 as well. And before the break from the coronavirus, they picked up a 1-1 draw against Mainz and a 3-3 draw against Hertha Berlin. So they have scored plenty of goals. They just can't seem to take any points away in terms of a victory.
Yeah, has Rowan Hennings been starting?
I'm just going to have a quick look for you, actually, just to make sure. So in the previous game, he did not play. He came off the bench. And, of course, in that game against Paderborn, he didn't play. So since they've come back, no, he's not played.
I don't know when he's one of you. I think, is he the top scorer or one of the top scorers?
He is their top scorer. He scored, I think,
goals.
11 this season.
I've got 7 here, 7 goals.
7?
Well, that's last season, apparently. Anyway, but when he's your main striker, you have got to start him. You need goals, and I do hope that they put him in for this game against Bayern, because he could do some damage.
I've just looked as well. They are actually playing against Schalke tonight as well. That's at 7:30, and they're playing at home. So they could even potentially go into this game with a victory against Schalke, which would put them into a great position of actually being out of the relegation zone tonight if they can beat Schalke. But, of course, I'm just looking at their fixture list now. Prayers for Dusseldorf in the chat, basically, is the best way to put it, because they've got that game, of course, tonight against Schalke. They then face Bayern. Then they face Hoffenheim at home, then Dortmund at home, then Leipzig away, and then the last 2 games, which they might desperately need to pick up points, is against Augsburg and Union Berlin. So some big fixtures coming up.
Tough games. Did you know that Hennings played at Burnley? Did not know that. He was
Played
at Burnley. Yeah, so he was at Burnley. He moved from Karlsruhe to Burnley for 2.25 million. Then went on Dusseldorf to loan, came back to Burnley, and then Burnley sold him for 1.3 for a free. There
you go. I mean, it's mad, that, isn't it? There's a lot of players that you look at and you think, I didn't even know that was there. But Kieran, when we said about this earlier, we talked about this game even before. You sounded pretty adamant that Bayern Munich were going to slaughter them.
Yep. I mean, and I'll mention it again, but if you can't hold a 2-0 lead with 2 minutes to go, maybe even 3, against a Cologne side that they weren't very good against Dusseldorf, and the goals they scored weren't even that good. I think the goalkeeper, again, he turned into Flappy Berkey. When Cordova hit the header. I know Rome made a good point that Bayern Munich didn't look the best, but I think Bayern Munich not at the best can destroy a Dusseldorf at their best, which is probably what we're going to witness. But I'll save my prediction until after Kieran Dolan.
That's right. I'll let you go. Kieran Dillon, what are we thinking for this game?
Well, this is the best team in Germany against a team that can't defend and concedes a lot of goals. There's only one way this is going. 5-0 to Bayern.
You've got the score again.
5-0 to Bayern. Kieran Al, you can still go for the same score for a point.
No, he's done it again. Why did you do that? 4-0.
4-0. Okay, right. So we're going 5-0 for Kieran D, 4-0 for Kieran L. I'm going to go... There's a part of me that really wants to stick a win for Dusseldorf, but I don't feel like they're going to do it. So I'm going to go 2-1 to Bayern. I think they'll score if Hennings plays. but I think it'll be a bit of a tight match. I'm not going to lie. Rowan, you said about Dusseldorf. Are you backing for a victory?
Yeah, 2-1 Dusseldorf.
Go on. I like to see it.
I think they're going to go ahead, Bayern get a goal back, and then in between the 80th and 90th, Dusseldorf get that goal.
I like it. There we go. So, Chris put one in the chat.
Yeah, he's gone 3-0 for Bayern.
Okay, so Rowan, I like it. You're repping Dusseldorf this week. The question is, are you going to rep the next team? Because this is the last game that I picked out, of course. There's one more team to talk about. Politely, we talked about them before. We kind of said they're pretty much down. And with the way that the other teams have been going as of right now since the break, it looks like it's pretty much cemented that they're going down. And that is, of course, poor Paderborn. They right now sit at the bottom of the league in 18th, exactly on 18 points as well. They have picked up a couple of points even there. Of course, they did pick up a draw against Hoffenheim, which they did look all right in that game. And they picked up a point against Dusseldorf in that game a couple of weeks ago. But unfortunately, they do have to play Dortmund. Now, of course, we know Dortmund will be coming off the back of this game from that loss against Bayern, and they will be desperate to pick up some points in this game. Paderborn, they need 6 points to get into that playoff spot. They need 9 points for complete survival without the playoffs. They have had some good moments, of course. Now, if Dortmund lose this game, which, is very unlikely, but there is still a chance, it does open the opportunity for teams like Gladbach and Leverkusen to potentially steal their Champions League spot, of course. If we look towards the top of the table, Dortmund are in second on 57 points. Leipzig are in third on 54 points, but of course they're currently playing right now, and it'll stay like that if, of course, Hertha Berlin do beat them. But Gladbach and Leverkusen, they're both on 53 points, so potentially a loss could open things right back up for the Champions League spot. I think some of us, Kieran L probably and Kieran D, will look at this game and think high scoring again. Do we think this is going to be a slaughter?
No.
You thought of us wrong.
It's the best time for Paderborn to first Dortmund at the moment. Dortmund are going to be absolutely disheartened that they got beaten in the Klassiker, and they're going to come in without a recognised striker.
Yeah, of course, Haaland is out injured as well for this game, so he won't be available.
Kieran said it perfectly. That was exactly the reason I said no as well.
It's the perfect time for Paderborn to face Dortmund.
Exactly.
Of course. You watched the game they played, didn't you, against Hoffenheim at the weekend, which is the 1-1 draw. And you said they looked quite good in that game, apart from a couple of missed chances.
One worry is Dortmund are playing without a recognised striker, and I couldn't tell Paderborn had a recognised striker because the way they missed chances on the weekend, honestly, they threw everything at Hoffenheim, and they deserved to win again. It was a bit like watching Frankfurt last night. But Paderborn, unfortunately, are in a situation where they're too far away. So if this was, Fortuna and I'd seen the same fight that I saw from Paderborn, I think, I believe this team has a chance. But they've, sadly, they're a little too far away.
So you both said you think this is going to be a bit more of a tighter one. Kividi, what are you going for in this match?
I still think Dortmund are going to win, but I don't think it'll be as comfortable. I'm going to say 2-0 to Dortmund.
2-0 Dortmund. Kieran, before I ask you your prediction, were you going to predict the same, or is this finally the first one where you've gone different?
No, this is the first one where the moment he said Dortmund are going to win, I thought, good, I'm free, because I'm going for 1-1.
1-1. Mm-hmm. I'm going 4-1 Dortmund. Who needs a striker? Why not? Who needs a striker? I seriously think that the players will step up. I think maybe Brandt and Hazard will score a couple. 4-1. Why not? Rowan.
3-0.
3-3. I like it. Go on, lad.
Why not? Chris Welch has gone for a bold 6-0 Dortmund.
So even though, as we said, without recognised striker, me and Chris have lost the plot. Rowan, 3-3 draw as well. Could happen, who knows, in the wonderful world of football. But they're the games that we're predicting for this week.
It happened, didn't it, in the reverse fixture, who were 3-all.
Exactly.
Paderborn were 3-0 as well, weren't they?
They were indeed, actually. And then I think, was it Marco Reus that scored 1 or 2 to bring it back, if I remember off the top of my head? Because I do remember seeing the scoreline and being in utter shock. But they are the games we're going to predict this week, of course. A couple of other standout games going on in the background do include the likes of the matches that are going on tonight, of course. We've got Augsburg and Paderborn tonight. That's a big relegation battle there. So they are playing tonight as well. Union Berlin versus Mainz, that's on at 7:30. That is once again another relegation battle game. And then as we look forward to the weekend fixtures, we've got the likes of the Bastos Derby, which is Wolfsburg versus Frankfurt. Of course, Schalke playing Werder Bremen. Hertha Berlin playing Augsburg. And of course, the late kickoff is Bayern Munich versus Dusseldorf. Now, before we end the show, as always, we are doing a watch along once again at the weekend. It's been a load of fun. We've enjoyed it, so we're doing it again. And of course, some of those fixtures I've talked about on the screen are some of those games being played. So I'm just going to very quickly sort out. We'll decide, as you can see on the screen now. There we go. We have our 4 names as always, and we have the 4 fixtures. They are Schalke versus Werder Bremen, Hertha Berlin versus Augsburg, Mainz versus Hoffenheim, and of course the elite one, it's the Dosthorst Derby, as I've called it.
Come on, I want the Dosthorst.
Who wants what? Before we
I
spin
want
the
the
wheel, who wants
Wolfsburg
what?
game. I want the Wolfsburg
Yeah, everyone wants the Wolfsburg game. Come on.
I'll take
I'm not
Schalke
gonna lie,
Werder Bremen.
I want a Schalke Werder Bremen.
There's
I'll
not, a game,
Werder Bremen.
there's not a game that I don't want, that's the thing.
No, I think there's not really a bad game on there. I mean, Hertha Berlin being in fantastic form. Mainz versus Hoffenheim, 2 teams out of form. And of course, the illustrious one is that Dosthorst Derby. We're going to change it up this week. Last week, we spun for the game and then the name. We'll do name and then game this week. So, first one off the board is going to be Rowan. Rowan, best of luck. Are you going to get Werder Bremen again? The answer is you are going to be covering...
If I get the Weghorst Derby, I'll trade. I'll take that.
Hertha Berlin versus Augsburg.
I'll take it.
Good little game, that. Of course, are they still 1-0 up right now, Hertha Berlin?
It's 1-1.
No, it's 1-1.
1-1. Who scored the equaliser?
Klosterman.
Klosterman. Wow, not too bad there. So 1-1, doing well. Next person off the wheel is going to be me.
Yourself.
And I am going to be getting...
Not the Dosthorst.
Mainz versus Hoffenheim. Not bad. I'll take that, which means Schalke
Werder
Bremen.
Didn't get any of the games we wanted.
No, unfortunately. So we've got
left?
Dosthorst Derby and Schalke versus Werder Bremen.
Oh, fair enough.
Two good games.
Two good games on there.
I wouldn't mind either of them.
And Kieran D,
Come on, Dost.
you are going to be getting
I'm about to see Kieran L go fucking mental.
Schalke Werder Bremen, which means Kieran L, you have the Dosthorst Derby.
I'll be honest, I didn't matter because the games I've had that have looked bad on paper, they've actually been quite enjoyable. But I get to watch Dost for like 2 weeks straight. This is,
It's going to be fun, isn't it? Dosthorst Derby. Hopefully some goals in that one. But we'll do what we did last week. We'll be live at 2:15 for those games. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we should see some more goals. In terms of FIFA content, I'm fuming. I've just gone on FIFA. They've released a Player Moments Dachi Kamada card.
I've actually.
And I'm not even joking you. A 91 Kamada card, which is... I'm fuming.
Is that right mid or left mid?
It's a centre forward, and it looks nuts. He's got some ridiculous stats. So that's out in FIFA.
3-star,
But... He's 4-star.
Oh,
They've upgraded him. It upgraded his skill moves and his weak foot. But in terms of content on the channel, as always, we did have an episode of the Wrestling Corner, which was available yesterday. What did you talk about on that one, Rowan?
We did Double or Nothing last weekend. Great show with Stadium Stampede, so we talked about that. We talked about the Raw episode with the sort of not fake audience, but the PC audience, the plexiglass, and we talked about 205 Live and main event.
So plenty of stuff talked about it. If you'd like to watch it, there is a link in the description, as always, to go and watch that episode. And of course, I've remembered this week, the NFL Corner's on a Friday, not on a Thursday. I've remembered this time. What are you going to talk about this week's?
We're going to stick with it on a Friday for the foreseeable. I'm not sure how long I'll have to communicate with Will, but for now, it's on a Friday. And we'll be moving on with the division previews. There's only 3 more weeks, I think, of this left, and it's the AFC South this week, if I do remember rightly. So we'll be talking about Rowan's Jacksonville Jaguars.
Whoa.
Let's say it may make for good viewing for Rowan, but I'm not convinced. So we'll talk about that on Friday as well.
So Rowan, you'll have to find out what all the talk is about in there. And of course, shout out to Will, who is serving the Percy Pigs as we speak in M&S. So shout out to you. But no, we've also do have, as always, the podcast, which will be back on Wednesday. And of course, we'll have our watch along live, which will be on Saturday at 2:15. And if you want to keep your eyes out as well, Twitch TV as always. If you like a bit of FIFA gameplay, you could join me on there on a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Friday. No, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. I got there in the end. So thank you ever so much for everybody who's joined us today. Greatly, greatly appreciated. We will be back on Saturday for the watch along as always. Thank you very much, Chris. Stay safe as always. Thank you to all of you. Thanks, Rome. Thanks, Kieran. And thanks, Kieran D.
Thank you, Josh.
Greatly, greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. We will see you all on Saturday for the watch along.